when I kill them, call the reverie. Cause no weapon formed against me shall prosper, yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 1313 podcast, the most mediocre podcast in the Star Wars universe. I'm Jacob.
I'm Jackson.
I'm Tommy.
Welcome back to all you Regs and to all you Shinies. Welcome to the podcast. This is the podcast. Please, before we begin, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, you like the video, you leave a comment, you follow us on all of our social media, that being Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. And also, if you haven't already, join the Discord. Link is in the description below. Support us on Patreon and buy some merch if you want to keep your pecs flying out. This summer, looking all swole, we got tank tops. So buy some tank tops, buy some slides. We got that summer collection is live.
Yes.
Heck yeah, go get the stuff. Anyway, boys, how are we doing this week?
Did you say Patreon?
Yes.
You did say
Shout out to our Patreon. I wanted to say a huge shout out to all our Patreon members. And we have 3 tiers to our Patreon, 3 ways to support. First is the Clone Trooper tier. Thank you to Delilah for being our one and only Clone Trooper in our Clone Trooper tier.
Woo!
And in our Grand Admiral tier, which is $5 a month and gives you access to our secret Oto Gunga Discord channel with other patrons and us. We have Landspeeder Luke, Stuck in Carbonite, and Jaros0315. And in our Gungan Boss tier, our 1313 a month tier, you have our top donator, Hunter Schultz.
Yes.
And you also have Commander Cook, Commander Bly, Obi-Shan Kenobi, Fig Fury, Your Casual Clone, and Tall Guy 102. And that concludes. And with these funds, guys, you guys are going to help Jacob be able to travel to the depths of the Congo. With this money, you guys are going to be able to help Jackson find a cure to colorblindness, and you are going to be able to help me find a back hair removal treatment. And thank you guys so much for supporting us on Patreon.
Can we do a back hair reveal of Tommy real quick?
No, it's too patchy.
Okay.
It's not fully grown in.
Fellas,
The carpet doesn't exist yet.
biggest news that we have for the podcast right now is our May 4th giveaway.
Yes!
I cannot emphasize how many people really started kind of like tracking onto that, but we don't have that many people entered into it. And the grand prize is the Order 66 pack.
Yes.
And we also have a first edition Mando, which is a huge deal. If you don't have any of these at all because of the ridiculous price, this is your time now to get those. Check out our Instagram, and if you don't have an Instagram, we also made a YouTube community post about it to accommodate for that as well.
This is the post.
Check it out. We're going to try to spread the word a little bit more, so more of y'all in our community can have a chance at getting that. But we want to thank you so much to Leitendi for donating these to us for this amazing giveaway. It is not... If I can't stumble over my words, it is people like you, Leitendi, that help make our show so great and our community so awesome. Thank you, boss.
Also, if you haven't already, and you see these absolutely fantastic hats on our head, shout out to my good friend Connor. He was on the podcast yesterday, and we did a nice celebration special. We talked everything, celebration, his experience at the con. It was a really cool episode. Make sure that you go and check that out for all the celebration news if you somehow live under a rock and you missed it. But boys, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing great, and I'm going to sneeze.
You good?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing good. I'm starting my career on Monday.
Yippee!
Really excited, but as the count grows smaller, it's kind of like sinking in now. And the fact that I'm going to be not going to college classes for the last few weeks of the semester is also a good bonus. But other than that, I'm just really excited to get my life going, and there will probably be a lot of times where I'm not able to podcast, which that makes me sad, but you'll see me over the summer doing oodles and oodles of reviews. So there you go.
Yippee!
This week was agonizing pain and torture, and I'm glad it's over with. The semester is almost at an end, and I could not be more thankful for that.
My week was okay. Not a lot happened. This morning I went for our campus has like these ride share bikes that you can use.
Oh, okay.
And I got to campus really early, so I said, you know what? I'm surrounded by a lot of greenery, a lot of dirt roads and stuff. I'm gonna ride one of these bikes and just go for a bike ride in the middle of the boonies. And I got about 3 miles away off campus, and the chain broke. So I had to walk back. It took me about an hour. So,
Damn.
But other than that, my day was pretty good. I had a math review and I finished it in 15 minutes and I said,
Hey.
I leave now. Pew. So that was pretty neat. Yeah.
Make sure to also check out these two things here. I'm gonna go blow my nose because
Okay.
I have
Oh yeah,
like
you're
a
fine. You're fine.
Okay, so coming up very
soon. Next
very,
week.
very
Next
soon.
weekend.
We're gonna be at Erie, PA's LibCon. It looks like it's LibCon or LibCon, but it takes place in a library. So we're gonna have a booth for this one day only, April 29th. So if you want to come down and meet us and hang out for just a little bit, and you're in the Pennsylvania state, you're in the Erie area, make sure you stop by and say hi. We're going to be giving out our first line of business cards.
Yes.
Which
Or if you just know us in person, you can ask.
yeah, well,
Like I gave out like 10 today,
You
which
can
is
ask
pretty
and I'll
rad.
say no. Oh, I'm gonna have to take some from you today.
okay, but I'm very proud with how they came out. They're very cool, and
Yes.
we're just. You can only get
Super
them from
glad.
us in person, unless you're Commander Cook. So you can only get them from us in person. So if you want to have like a little piece of like little merch to have in your wallet 24/7.
Also, congratulations to Commander Cook for hitting 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yippee!
That's exciting.
Can it be our turn next?
Congrats, bro.
Can it be
Oh,
our
also
turn?
with the Library Con, it's a week-long event. We're only there for the 29th on the Saturday. They have a lot of various workshops about like cosplaying and like other things relating to the library
Jordan.
and pop culture related things. So they do have a Facebook page, and that is where you can find the lineup of what will be happening for that.
So check that out. Also, I'm gonna be start streaming on Twitch in a higher volume now. We got our internet situation here at the house fixed.
Yes.
So that's fixed. I have the newer Xbox, so everything's running smoothly. So probably check out. As of this video coming out, I'll probably be streaming tonight. I'm going to try to start streaming every single day leading up to Jedi Survivor's release. Get through the entirety of Jedi Fallen Order. And on the night the Jedi Survivor's releasing at midnight, I'm going live and I'm going to play through as much of the game as I possibly can. I want to go through all of it.
He's gonna go through all of it, or else he's a coward.
Yeah, so we'll see how far I get. But no, so that'll be a lot of fun. So if you just want to see the game and just get the story of it, so it's not like you can experience it in full and not have it spoiled or just have like bits and pieces spoiled of it. Make sure that you please. Twitch is probably linked below, but if you want to know exactly when I'm going live, make sure that you post it always in the Discord. It's always in the Discord, so please join that. Join that down below. Okay. Also, I finally figured out how to do VODs on Twitch. So my playthrough that I did the other day is going to be live. You can go back and rewatch me. Tried to learn the parrying cycle again because it's been so long since I've touched that game. But that this also means that I can probably start doing some Battlefront videos and start making some best of Battlefront and some
What if we did
compilations.
Battlefront as the group and then you can hear everyone on the mic?
Nope, that is 100% something I can do. So
That'll be the
hopefully
move.
we can get that running up soon and I can make some VODs of that. But we had this much news. We have this much news.
There's a little bit of cringe going on in the Star Wars community.
Yeah.
Big surprise there. Online. Basically, do you want to take it or do you want me to take it?
I can get this. So there was stuff surfacing about a dev that was working on Battlefront 3 in 2008. The 2008 version of Battlefront 3, the one that would have been on the original Xbox 360, those consoles came out, released some concept art for Battlefront 3 and Battlefront 4, and was talking about how the game was almost completed and then LucasArts canceled it just before it launched. Lots and lots of people are confusing this for a current Battlefront 3. That is not the case. I would like another Battlefront, but it's probably not going to happen. So yes, be aware of any misinformation flying around. This isn't a new game that was almost on the horizon. This game is 2 decades old.
Mm-hmm.
Probably
not the
closer
new
to, like a decade.
A decade and
No, probably 2 decades. Yeah,
a decade and some
almost
change.
2. Now, the other thing I want to point out too is like all this concept art that was supposedly leaked by this dev has been out for years. So this was not new information. The interview was new that IGN did, but a lot of the playthrough and stuff like that we've had that for over 10 years now. So I definitely just wanted to make sure people knew this was not like some secret new information that got revealed. And like Jacob said, it definitely has nothing to do with the newer Battlefront franchise. It's just the curse that Battlefront 3 is never to come out.
Yeah.
It's a curse.
It's like Half-Life 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's never happening. Anyway,
Anyways, so
Mando
let's
season 3, chapter 24, the return, the finale of the Mandalorian, and probably, and I think, might be one of the last times for a long time that we see Din Djarin.
I would say that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody did put in our Discord though that Variety Magazine stated that season 4 of The Mandalorian would be focused on Din Djarin with Din Grogu now, and who's the person from the New Republic?
Carson Teva.
Yeah, Arson Teva will be teaming up to hunt down the remnants of this new empire.
Never mind, I lied. Oopsie doopsie.
Well, it's not going to come.
Bad.
Oh,
No comment. All right, but
my God.
Until it's really stinky.
All right, let's get into
Let me mute my mic real quick.
okay, never
You're
mind.
disgusting. Let's talk about this episode. There's been a lot of discourse, and I've been seeing a lot of very divisive opinions
Yep.
on not. I don't think it's specifically about this episode. I think it's people's feelings about season 3 of The Mandalorian
Yeah.
that are pretty divisive.
Divisive.
Divisive is the word.
That's a silly word.
I'm gonna
So
be,
go ahead, Jackson. Yeah.
I'm gonna just say right off the rip, I feel like the main issue, in my opinion at least, for the episode is it's Star Wars hardcore fans that are the issue, and not people that are taking the show for what it is. So my best example for that
That didn't
is,
make any sense. Can you
let
rephrase
me-
that, please?
let
You
me
mean the
literally-
casual fan versus the hardcore
Yes.
fan? There we go.
My buddy's a casual fan, and he's caught up on The Mandalorian, and he finished the season finale when it came out. But again, he has very little exposure to like everything extreme in Star Wars. I got him to finish the Clone Wars a little bit ago too, and he loved the ending. He said that he really enjoyed it and everything that happened, and he, honest to goodness, didn't see any issue. And then I compare that to the audience that I have, that I know in person, I should say, who are almost, I would say, at my caliber of like loving Star Wars this much, where they've just watched and they've been like, it was all right, it was meh at best, like the season just didn't know what it was doing. And that part ticks me off just a bit, because I feel like that is the parroted phrase. When someone comes up with an idea like that, every other person starts saying that, and that's just what peeves me about this, is that it's just consistently, it didn't know what it was doing, is always repeated.
Well, it's because one person says something, and then everybody who thinks they know what they're talking about repeats the same thing.
Everyone watches a TikTok and then just word vomits whatever they just heard on
Exactly.
the
But
TikTok.
granted, I'm probably the only one sitting at this table who is of the opinion of the finale was meh. And I don't say that like I want to. I don't want to. Mando is one of my favorite shows. I don't want to sit here and be like, man, I didn't like that finale as much as I wanted to. But the finish, and I turned to my dad and I went, okay. Like, I wasn't like, wow. It didn't wow me. It didn't do anything for me, really. So, but we can get into that. So, lots of big things happened in this episode that I think were treated very poorly. So one of those things. I think one of those things is the Moff Gideon clones. Moff Gideon out of nowhere is just like, there's clones of me, and they're Force sensitive. And then they took the rug and they went, they're all dead. So I felt like a moment like that of officially being like, these are the first Force sensitive clones in Star Wars. This is what we've been building to. I felt like a moment like that should have some gravity to it, but I felt like they just kind of went, let's get that out. We got to go to the next story beat. My biggest problem with this entire finale is I think it was super, super rushed. And it's becoming more and more my least favorite thing in movies and TV, and it's actually like, it's gotten to a point where it's actually really starting to bother me. Usually, like with the Moon Knight finale, I was like, I liked it, but yeah, that was rushed. But now it's like this, you have 8 episodes to set up for this finale. There's no reason for this all to feel like you have to get it done in 10 minutes at the very end. I just don't know why everything has to be like, boom, 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 boom at the end. It doesn't make it feel like, whoa, this is all epic, everything's happening. It makes me feel like this is all very convoluted, and it feels like they're trying to do too much in one episode.
I disagree, because I feel like it built up for the boom, boom, boom action that was the end. We had this awesome cliffhanger in the previous episode of like, holy cow, what's going to happen? We're about to go to battle. And it was the battle, the resolution, the end. So I feel like it ran its course exactly how a story should work to begin with. You know, the pyramid thing where it goes like this.
Well, with the last episode, it built up to them finding it, and then it escalated, and then it like hit its peak. Paz is dead. All the heroes are gone. It's like, oh my gosh, where is this gonna go? And then the next episode kind of went like it felt like they're like, there's this thing happening. Whoa! Action! 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 There's this thing happening. Oh my gosh! There's a garden under Mandalore. There's plants. Action! 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 Oh my gosh! Moff Gideon has 4 sets of clothes. Action! 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 Moff Gideon's dead. And then I'm gonna go off into
supposed to be linear. I can do that.
Well, it's when you're pacing things out, and from what I have learned, you want to have things act as, especially like in containing it within a fight scene. You don't want it to be fast, 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 fast. You want it to be fast, 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 slow. Have something of a beat. Fast, 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 slow. My problem is those points that are supposed to be slow didn't last long enough. They didn't let it breathe for what it needed to do before it pulled you right back into the action. It felt like they were there because on paper, when you're writing out a story, these are beats that you want to have. It felt like they were just like, we'll throw them there because we have to have them there, and then we'll keep moving on. Was my issue with it, because it just, I don't know.
I just agree to disagree on that.
Well, the thing is I the entire time of like actual new content happening that isn't intro and isn't credits is 34 minutes with this episode. I know because people in the Discord were asking me to, if Thrawn was in this episode, record my reaction. So I set my phone up somewhere in the room and I forgot about it, and I started the timer and I stopped it right when the credits started rolling, and it was a 34-minute video. Last episode was 50 minutes. Why couldn't you just add an extra 10 minutes, 5 minutes of time to this? It's like, this was a short episode. That's why I'm like a little bit peeved about it. Because if it was a long episode and it was like all fast, I would be like, okay, yeah, there was a lot of content in this for them to really push in for like what they wanted to. But my thing is, the episode was really short. You could have made it a little bit longer. I don't think anybody would have minded. It's not like it was an hour long thing and it was just kind of like all convoluted. It was like, it's one of the shortest episodes in the entire season. So if you're going to have an action-packed finale, wouldn't you think that would also kind of be one of the longer episodes in your season?
Tommy, thoughts? I don't think it needs to be an hour long. We're just spoiled to it.
I'm not saying it needs to be an hour long too. I'm saying that this episode was really short. I think they could have allotted an extra 3-5 minutes to space things out, let things breathe a little bit more, and not have everything be so rushed.
All right, so here's where I'm at. Let me hit you with something. So
Tommy was just convoluting what he was gonna say.
No, I was just waiting. For a chance to jump in. So first, I want to say, just in general, like in the conversations that I've had with other fans, like, and Jackson kind of said, the hardcore fans, like with the conversations I've had, I feel like I watched a different show, not just this episode, but this whole season. Like when I talk to people, like friends of mine, I'm like, I feel like we watched 2 different shows for the last 2 months, and now we're here and we took away completely different things. I think that's something that, this has nothing to do with what you said, but like a lot of things that I've heard from people, they're getting so caught up in the events that are happening in the story. Mm-hmm. The whole point of The Mandalorian is that it is affecting a larger group of people than just the characters in the show that we're looking at. While at the same time, both Din and Grogu get some fantastic character development throughout the season, and especially Grogu in this last episode. So the one thing that you brought up, Jacob, was the cloning. And for me, the cloning has been set up all throughout the show. We've had 2.5 seasons of thinking that Moff Gideon's cloning that was a secret was to clone Palpatine. That's what we always thought. Then all of a sudden, in the second to last episode, we get this reveal from the Shadow Council that in fact, Moff Gideon, his cloning project had nothing to do with the Emperor, and that was what Commandant Hux and Captain Pelion, right? Pelion were both up to the entire time. They're the ones that are trying to get Palpatine back. Moff Gideon's just been doing his own thing. And he's the one trying to take over power, even questioning Thrawn's authority in the situation because he hasn't shown himself yet. And For me, I think it was fine because, again, there's a lot to this that has set up precedent for what will come in the future. We now know that through Dr. Pershing's TED Talk that we saw early in the season...
I just posed it.
I want to play with it
You know
a
what?
little.
I'm posing this one now.
Okay, this one isn't like yours, it's ours.
But
We know through the TED Talk that Dr. Pershing did that you can splice DNA from multiple beings. Obviously, this is in reference to splicing Grogu's DNA with Moff Gideon's DNA. We now also know that these clones do not have to be grown from an infant into a human being anymore because the clones of Moff Gideon are of Moff Gideon as he currently is in the show. And he hasn't been growing these for 20, 30 years, as long as the Empire's been standing.
lots of things of the cloning stuff is also taken from Heir to the Empire. Heir to the Empire has a lot of stuff, at least in the last one where they talk about cloning. It takes at least 1 year for a clone to be grown and to be sane. Apparently there's like a lot of stuff with clone madness. Like, they'll actually like be like mentally unstable if you don't cook them long enough. With like 1 year being the minimum, and then like Thrawn figures out how to do it in a matter of days. But I still think, yeah, it's like we've had like a lot of build up to it over these like last season and this season kind of winding up to it. I think that the payoff to that wind up should have been like, this is it, because it's a plot twist. It's not the Emperor like we all thought it was going to be. It's Moff Gideon, and it's like, just for it to be like, oh my gosh, he's cloning himself. I press a couple buttons and they just and then they're done away with. I'm
glad that they're dead.
Well, I'm glad...
I didn't want to see them even in action. What's the point of... You have this super being he created that would literally, like, screw up with so many things. It would be better just to kill it off and be like, okay, that's cool, you did that.
Well, the other thing is...
Don't introduce it if you're going to get rid of it in a fraction of a second. That's my gripe with it, was the fact that they're like, oh my gosh. I'll just type some things in and then I'll get rid of it. I'll Control-Alt-Delete this project and then we'll move on.
My point about that is, like, we get the reveal right away, whether we knew it or not, that those clones are force sensitive when Grogu is looking at one of them and it opens its eyes. That it sensed him in the Force and opened its eyes.
He also said it last episode that Moff Gideon was combining the powers of the Jedi, cloning, and the Mandalorians.
Which leads me to my next point. My whole thing, I know a lot of people were upset about the Darksaber getting destroyed. And I have a whole, like, discussion just about that.
That's another thing where it's like that's kind of a big deal that it happened, and it just kind of got swept under the rug a little.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it didn't.
Heat of battle.
No, it didn't get swept under the rug, and here's why. The Darksaber itself, we've always thought was something that was needed to unite the Mandalorians. An inanimate object, a thing, whether it's the Mythosaur, the Darksaber. There's always this, we need an inanimate object is going to unite all the Mandalorians. When really the Darksaber has been anything but. It has been a symbol that has actually divided the Mandalorians. Think of the people that we have seen have the Darksaber. In the Clone Wars, you have Pre Vizsla, who is a villain, has the Darksaber, loses it to Darth Maul, who doesn't care anything about Mandalore, and then more than half of the Mandalorians are like, yep, he's the ruler of Mandalore now, even though has nothing to do with our culture and is going to use us just to win a war. So, yeah, but we'll get horns on our helmets and be on his side now. Yep. And that's why Bo-Katan breaks off. Yeah. And then Sabine finds the Darksaber accidentally on Dathomir, and then she ends up giving it to Bo-Katan, who loses it almost immediately to Moff Gideon. And then Moff Gideon has it. So almost the entire lineage of the Darksaber has been in the hands of a major villain.
At least from what we've seen, the Darksabers existed for thousands of years.
And my point is, the Mandalorians have always been divided since the Darksaber's been around, because they're always jockeying for this Darksaber. Moff Gideon destroys the Darksaber because Moff Gideon is enamored by objects. He is very much a
material girl.
Yeah. He is enamored by clones, by the Darksaber, by the Dark Trooper armor, by Beskar. He thinks that things will make him more powerful.
All you need is lots
and then
more stuff.
Bo-Katan says to him after he crunches the Darksaber, she says, Mandalorians are stronger together. And that proves when Din and Grogu and Bo-Katan all work together to defeat Moff Gideon, that is a sign that it's the character of the Mandalorians that make them who they are, not a Darksaber. The Darksaber is not the thing and not the Beskar. That is not what makes Mandalorians special. It's their character, their integrity, and their value system.
Yep, I'm like 100% with that because I was still okay with the fact that they showed the Mythosaur at like the end of the episode for a
Grogu
second.
connected with the Mythosaur.
Yeah, because the last thing that I need is for the Mandalorians to be like, suddenly whoever does this should lead Mandalore.
I was totally
and this
right,
has the
though.
power for it.
I was
It's
totally
like,
right though about the Mythosaur at the beginning of the season. I said it wasn't gonna have a payoff. I said it was gonna rely as a symbol to drive the story to where it was going. And cha-ching, cha-ching. I called it.
Maybe the only prediction we had right about Mando season 3.
Yeah, we had almost nothing right about this season.
Bad Batch season 2
that's-
had that on lock.
Oh my gosh, we had that. We were playing that like a fiddle, dude.
Crosshair didn't die and we didn't see Cody again, so we got that wrong. So
in
wrong on
the
the bingo
purpose
sheet.
of the messaging of the Darksaber, I would argue that it was not swept under the rug. I think that it served its purpose, and it shows that the Mandalorians are above that. They don't need a Darksaber to unite and to fight together.
I agree.
It served its purpose in uniting them, but you don't need it after that.
I agree in that criteria of it. I also just think though that again the moment of it breaking should have lasted a moment longer because it's just in the story the story makes sense. I'm talking about this from a visual filmmaking point of view because these are now all things that I'm starting to notice more and more. It's just the fact that it happens and then like they move on to Bo's reaction, but Bo's reaction is rather instantaneous. It's not like she has like a, oh my gosh, it's dead, but then a realization that she doesn't need this to be the leader.
But she already knew that. That's what
but
I
it's
mean.
like
She
a
already
this moment.
had that. And
Not
that's my
really,
other point.
Not really, because she uses it in front of Axe
Um,
Woves. She uses it in front of Axe Woves. No, it's the only way that Axe Woves' gaggle of fucks joins her.
Bro, why are you
is-
cussing on the cast all the time now?
But we'd be doing it all the time now. It doesn't even matter. But
Can't be doing that.
The only reason why Axe Woves' gang of misfits joins up with her is because she gets the Darksaber. So it's not like she's like, oh, I don't need this.
And it
She
fulfilled its purpose. It united the Mandalorians.
That's what I'm saying. But with that, she doesn't just have this now and then go, yeah, but I don't need it. It would take the breaking of it and then a moment of realization to realize that this isn't all I need.
No, I would argue
she didn't need
against
that because it happened last episode when Din said that, I understand that you think that there's so much importance with this Darksaber to begin with, but we don't care about that, and it's your character that matters.
And this is my
when the
point.
realization of the Darksaber isn't needed happens.
That's my
it,
point.
It happens there, but it also should be reflected
No, it
on.
doesn't need to. It doesn't need to be like a death in like a 3-minute like slow-mo like, no.
Well, no, that's not what I'm
With a
saying at all.
flashback.
That's not what I'm saying at all. It gets crunched. He looks at it and goes, but we don't need that. I'm thinking it gets crunched.
He's got help. No, I don't want cringe moments.
I don't
like
want.
that.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I want a visual realization of this happening. I want to see the character's mood shift in this moment because this is the apex of that moment. That moment where Din talks to her plants the seed of what this moment produces. I want to see those dots connect. I want to see her fulfill her from years and years of being, I need the saber, I need the saber, I need the saber. The seed has been planted by Din. I need to see that. The audience needs to see that now be turned into something else rather than just, it's broken, okay. That's what I'm saying.
With you, boss. You're thinking about it way too much, in my opinion, at this point. Like, if
Apparently
you're,
I'm not.
Jacob-
If so many people think this episode sucked.
Jacob, I feel like if you're going to get so upset that if in the heat of an awesome battle that has built up this entire season now, that a character didn't have an expression for like 2 seconds, it's ruined. Like, I just feel
That's
like you
not
really
what I'm
have
saying.
ruined
That's
like,
not what
the
I'm
whole,
saying.
like, this is what the episode was, but it should have been this.
That's not what I'm saying at all. You guys aren't. What I'm saying.
No, I get what
is-
you're saying. I'm just saying
He doesn't
I
get it.
disagree. I'm
Yeah,
saying I
I'm
disagree.
just saying I disagree.
But again,
Because it already happened.
Well,
it already happened.
It didn't already.
You already
happen.
had the moment where Din talks to her on the pirate ship. You get the moment.
That's not the
and
moment, though.
that's to you, it's not. But to the rest of us,
Apparently not.
It is.
To you two, not millions and millions of people that
And
are
so-
whining and crying online about this episode.
I think that this would
Everyone
lead me
wants
to
it.
my next point I wanted to talk about, was that I feel like people watch this show, like they show up, they watch an episode, and they just forget about everything that happened in the weeks prior. Not just in this season, but in seasons
I'm
prior.
saying I forgot everything that happened.
Let him cook. Let
No,
him cook.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about just in general. Like, I feel like people sit down. When I say, like, I feel like I'm watching a different show, it's because I'm thinking about the things that have already happened and how the characters are affected now. I don't need to be reminded. And the same goes for when Grogu uses the force field and saves Din and Bo-Katan from the fire. If
It
you
happened
think
in season 1.
back in season 1, he saved them from the incinerator trooper, but then he fell asleep after he did that.
But he didn't
And
get
that was on a
stabbed.
smaller scale. This was on like a much larger scale, and he was able to stay awake and protect 2 people just instead of Din on this one. And that to me is a perfect example of character progression, and it shows that all the training he did with Luke comes into play here. I don't need anything else. I don't need to be spoon-fed the moments and spoon-fed the reactions, because I know because it's the thing we talked about with Andor. With Andor, it was like, I like the intelligent storytelling. I like that I don't have to be spoon-fed how the characters feel and reminded of things that happened. That's what the recap at the beginning of the episode
But one of
is
the
for.
things that made Andor so good is because it wasn't rushed and it had megatons of room to breathe.
I'm not
The
talking about the
Mandalorian is
pacing.
a children's show. Andor's not.
I think that's a moot point. I really just think that it, like, that specifically, I think that it wouldn't have changed anything for me. I think that just Bo-Katan saying to Moff Gideon, Mandalorians are stronger together, and then her, Din, and Grogu fighting together and then being able to defeat Moff Gideon when alone, Din couldn't defeat him alone, Bo-Katan couldn't defeat him alone. It's when they work together and come together as a team, because that's what Mandalorians are.
Yep.
Broad had hacks, though. He was cheating.
He did have hacks. Now, I do want to say,
did have
from a story point, from a story point of view, Moff Gideon had to die. I saw some theories that was a clone of Moff Gideon because he didn't have a mustache. And I'm like, no.
It'd be really funny if it was. That was the reason.
If it was a
Yeah.
clone of Moff Gideon, it probably would have used the Force. And Moff Gideon did go out of his way to say, you killed all my Force-sensitive clones. I don't think a clone of Moff Gideon would say, you killed all my Force-sensitive clones.
Well, in lots of the Heir to the Empire books, lots of the clones believe they're original. Druith Sabayoth is a clone, but he doesn't realize that. Druith Sabayoth died in the Clone Wars. This version of him is suffering from clone madness, but he believes that he's the original. So that could be something that's happening. I just highly doubt it.
No.
That was another thing I also didn't like. I didn't like that Moff Gideon's death, which he's been the bad guy of 3 seasons, was ah, and then he's gone.
we had to get rid of Moff Gideon because
Why did you
we
want Bo to
already
stab him
know.
and go, this was for Mandalorian, and then hit the dart saber
I
and be like,
I would have liked to see his body fly limp in front of the 3 of them as they're or something. Just
it needed to be more gruesome.
No,
they should have paid attention to the
they
evil
needed to
dead.
hold on to that. He's the big bad of 3 seasons for him.
Yeah, and the Emperor goes, oh, to the shack.
Yeah,
He's
but
the big
guess
bad for 9 movies.
Yeah, guess what happens? You see him go, ah, and then he explodes, and everybody looks down the thing, and all the wind rushes through their hair, and then they go, oh my
All
gosh.
right, well, what about the
There's
Grand
a-
Inquisitor? The Grand Inquisitor just falls and dies. That's
Half
it.
the people in Star Wars fall and die.
Well,
Maul falls and dies.
The Grand Inquisitor was 1 season and barely within that 1 season. He was
Moff
like
Gideon
the
wasn't
half.
even in 90% of season 3.
That's why I don't understand like why he died so quick in this season. Is because he got reintroduced
All right,
just
bro.
to die.
We had to get rid of Moff Gideon because Thrawn is the new big bad. This
Then
has
don't
already
write him
been
back into the
established.
season. Leave him with the New Republic.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm like 100% with Tom, bro, Jake. I'm like, Gideon had to go for Thrawn to come in.
I think if Gideon had to go and it had to be within 2 episodes, I felt like it was too fast for him to go. I would have rather him just stayed with the New Republic and just got executed or something like that.
There
I
are
want
so
to
many
see him
lessons.
get the lethal injection and watch him squirm.
There are so many lessons with Moff Gideon dying. That his death, the moments before his death, brings so many lessons to all of our main cast. I can't believe that so many people are just missing this entirely. That's why I keep saying, I feel like I watched an entirely different show
Yep.
than other people watch because it's like
You also have to remember that half the people watch this for the baseline value. Lots of people aren't looking at this for how did this improve every other character? How does this affect the greater story? Lots of people are just watching this because they think the show is cool.
yeah, that's a smooth brain way to watch the show.
That's how a majority of the people watch this show. You have to remember that.
It's
Lots of people watch this show just because of Grogu.
That's not how it's written. But that's my point is, yeah, you can watch it just for that, but I don't want to hear you complain because the show is talking to you. The show there's messages to this. There's so much more than just, like I said, the events that are happening in the episode. There's so much more than that.
Yep.
And you have to take a step back and look at how this, and again, like I saw a lot of complaints that there was no big cameo, there was no after credit scene. Again, who cares?
I didn't want that.
In last episode,
I just wanted
in this
it to be
episode,
longer.
they did so much to propel what's going to happen next, not just for The Mandalorian, but for the Ahsoka show and the greater story of Star Wars. Again, everyone always wants to talk about the main story. Where is the main story? And you missed it. The entire season, everything that happens for a reason.
Yes.
We said it about the Bad Batch. We're going to say it again. Everything that happens in these shows happens for a reason. Dave and John don't just smoke a joint, sit down together and go, oh, what would the Mandalorian
Happy
do
420,
today?"
everybody.
It's like, is it actually?
Yeah, it's 420 today.
As of recording.
That's
As
my.
of recording this is 420.
That's just my thing is like I just don't.
All right, guys, time for the 420 No.
I just
The
don't.
1313 podcast says never has or never will consume any sort of narcotics because we are living on water and breathing on air.
I'll lose my job.
I probably wouldn't, but I also don't like the idea of being high. So
Or clearly at our other employment, you can.
Yeah, clearly at our other place of work that I used to be at. you
Yes.
can.
However,
Yeah. Did you want to say something?
yeah, no, because that was the other thing that we were talking about in the car, is that when people are comparing episode by episode, it's like they're taking episode 1 from season 3 and comparing it to season 2 and season 1 being
Yep.
like, we didn't see Boba Fett and no big action happened and it wasn't an hour long. It's like,
I did think it was odd that Boba Fett wasn't even mentioned in the
yeah,
season.
he was. He was mentioned once.
When?
When he went to Pelly and she was like, you want me to get Boba Fett?
Oh, well, yeah.
But Boba Fett's doing something else anyway.
So this was another thing that I talked to several people that are in our Discord, and I said, what about this season finale made you think it was meh? Like, I want to know, like, what about it? And everyone responded with, well, the season 2 finale had Luke Skywalker. Well, yeah, of course, like, yeah, that one made you jump out of your seat because it was such an unexpected thing, and that was the last character you would have expected to see in that moment. And this,
It was hype.
it didn't serve the story in season 3. There would have been no reason to have, oh, and then this character shows up and this character shows up and that. No, they would have already been introduced into the storyline by now. That's kind of where I differ in that way. It's like, again, I'm just here to watch Star Wars and I'm enjoying it for what it is, and I'm going to take away what I'm given. I'm not so caught up in like what could have been or what I think should have been. Like, I just enjoy the Star Wars that I'm given, and that's what I take away from it. And I was getting really frustrated trying to just talk about, man, this part was so cool. This part was so cool. Nah, whatever.
Yeah, it was
From so many people. And I'm
It
like,
was okay.
But
It's like,
who cares?
Can we
then?
talk?
man.
Can we talk on something that we both can agree on? IG-11 being back is a little silly.
no, I like
it was whatever. I was like,
I thi-
that's odd.
I think the moment was really silly, especially with Grief Karga immediately just walking up going, yeah! I saw that, I went,
It's the perfect, like at the beginning, it's the perfect write-off for Cara Dune. So, I mean, like, it is what it is. It's funny to see him, and then what are the odds, like, Mando's going to be, like, best buddies again with IG-11.
I was saying that's going to be Taika
Waititi.
Waititi's film. Is going to be IG-11 starring Navarro.
Rangers of the New Republic.
Now, let me go. I had just a bunch of talking points that I wanted to make sure I covered.
Project
Yeah.
Blackwing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that we all like.
That little zombie helmet. I see
In the
you.
cantina.
Please, none of you write that before I get there. Please, I want that to be my thing. Please.
That, I think, was super interesting because I never noticed that the first time through, and then I saw TikTok, and then he mentioned it to me as well. But
It's like the only thing in this episode that made me go, oh, oh. But there was that, and then like with the title being The Return, especially because Thrawn was mentioned last week, and we all know I love my blue boy. I was like, what's all returning? Because at the time we thought that the last episode's title had a double meaning, and everybody on the internet was wrong about that.
Everyone was wrong.
Everybody was. Granted, why I don't understand why it was called Spies with an S.
I think honestly it was to purposefully
Purposeful
Throw us
misdirection.
off.
yeah.
I also think that, but then again, I think it also just people. Another reason why people hated this episode, it probably gave them an expectation of something to happen, and then their expectations weren't fulfilled. But then again, we've talked on many times that is a dangerous thing to do with Star Wars.
That
because
is.
Star Wars doesn't like to meet your expectations; it likes to subvert them.
That's another thing. I saw a lot of complaints
Oh boy.
that it just had a happy resolution at the end. Why does every show need to be dictated if it's good or bad by how much tragedy occurs at the end? Like this was
because we're prequels fan, Tommy.
this season ended with a resolution that's going to set up for a time jump. I think that the next time we see the Mandalorian and Grogu, there's going to be some time has passed. Similar to the Bad Batch. You had a resolution at the end of Bad Batch Season 1, and then Bad Batch Season 2 left us with a terrible, awful cliffhanger.
Yep. Yeah.
I think something that also works with this this kind of clean slate ending is I do believe to some extent there was because we've talked about this before, Grogu coming back didn't feel too right in the Book of Boba, and then it just kind of felt odd coming into the Mandalorian. There's a lot of people that didn't have the context for it. We were speculating that this was a producer's thing, being like, why'd you get rid of Grogu? He's our money cow. We need him back now. So storytelling things for this season got switched up a little bit. I think they tied it off in a bow so they could say, okay, producers, Grogu is back. You ruined our story that we had planned. We had to do a rewrite. Now, because we have this clean slate, we can do whatever we want now. That's one thing I do think has happened with this with this ending, because the only thing that they've set up for with future seasons is that Mando's like, I'll help you guys. I'll help the New Republic hunt down some Imperials, which is gonna play into Thrawn and his upbringing, coming within Ahsoka and the later shows. But I think that they tied it off in a little bow because one, I think they've mentioned before that Mando isn't going to be the only main character within the next coming season, and two, you tie it off so then you can do whatever you want with the next one without having to have this cliffhanger dictate the rest of your story.
That was something else that I really wanted to talk about. This whole season has been about what it means to be a Mandalorian. I know we've already stated that here, but that's another thing that people were kind of like, well, it doesn't feel like the Mandalorian. It doesn't really make sense. I'm like,
It was a tone change. We've talked about this.
do you not remember the last 2 seasons of the show where there were all these little bits sprinkled in throughout the first 2 seasons where Din is talking about the covert and what it means to be a Mandalorian with them? He meets Bo-Katan and Koska Reeves and Axe Woves in season 2, and there's this whole conflict over what it means to be a Mandalorian. Then there is, at the end of season 2, Din removes his helmet, and that's what propels us into the beginning of season 3, is he's going and he's questing to have his helmet back. And then another thing that was killing me was people, I see all these comments like, there was no antagonist in Mando season 3 until the last 2 episodes. First of all, the story didn't require an antagonist. What purpose would Moff Gideon coming back in the second episode have served? And don't forget, was it the 3rd episode where Bo's castle gets destroyed by Imperials? We know there's an Imperial presence, but we were focusing on reuniting the Mandalorians. You didn't need an Imperial to help to propel reuniting the Mandalorians. That's why, not every story has to have at every moment this big ominous being going on. And I would argue that it was there still, because her castle gets bombed. They fight a bunch of fighters, and there's a ton more that show up, and they're like, oh, we got a dip, but we don't know who it was.
Yeah, even I feel like The Mandalorian, because I am going to forever always argue that it is more aimed towards children.
It's a family show.
Yeah, it's a family show.
I would say
it very
children,
much
but I would also say it's all ages.
It very much encompasses what Tommy always talked about with found family. You have this first season where Din finds Grogu, has really no idea what to do with him, and then he's like, oh crap, I have to take care of this kid. Taking care of the kid up to season 2, and he's like, oh crap, I have to give it away. And then we have this very emotional kind of reaction to it in the Book of Boba Fett, where he's like, well, I really, really care for Grogu, and Grogu misses him so much that they get back together, and then it's resolved at the very end of this when he makes the decision to adopt Grogu and take him in as his apprentice.
Season 1, reluctant dad. Season 3 ending, adopted father.
Exactly.
Acceptance.
Grogu finally has a family to call his own.
Officially.
Officially, yeah. So that's why I was really happy with the ending. It was a nice little cutesy thing with them just like chilling on Navarro. And
Wait
it was
a minute.
like, now they're a family and now we can have a good, happy ending. And we don't have tech falling from the sky.
Jackson, are you saying that a show built up and progressed characters over multiple seasons? Go figure. Apparently this is a foreign concept to some people.
And this is also something that I've been saying since the beginning of this season. This season isn't a Western. The season isn't a samurai film where there's obviously a bad guy and then the outlaws driving out the bad guy and to free the people of the town. This is a religious epic. A religious epic isn't an exterior drive. It's a drive from within the tribe. That's what this entire season was. It didn't need a bad guy because the bad guy was the prolonged separation of the Mandalorians, of they're split into sects. They're the Roman Catholics and the Christians, and the Great Schism split them apart. And that's another reason why I still think it was a little silly to bring Moff Gideon in at the very end, because I don't think it needed it. Because the whole point of this was bringing back the Mandalorians, and the only purpose Moff Gideon served was within 15 minutes, just to be like, but we're stronger together, and then two people fight together.
I guess that's 3, because Grogu was
In 3, but
but then again, and Grogu's a Mandalorian.
but he's also an outside actor in this.
But then there's my other point is, like, I would argue Moff Gideon was instrumental to this because Moff Gideon is representative of materialism. The armor doesn't make you Mandalorian. The Darksaber doesn't make you Mandalorian.
Well, the armor is part of it.
The armor is a part of Mandalorian culture, but Moff Gideon is like obsessed with the material things.
Moff Gideon is
Material
cultural appropriation reincarnate.
But that's my point, is like he was the representation of everything that at face value you look at it and go, yeah, Mandalorian. If you saw a picture of him and you only knew surface level knowledge of the Mandalorian, you'd say, yeah, and that's a Mandalorian. But it's what's inside that makes the Mandalorians who they are, and their sense of community and their togetherness. And that's why, again, I think Moff Gideon was instrumental in destroying the Darksaber. In a sense, he's, in the sense of religious epic, he's destroying the golden calf. He's destroying the false idol that everyone worships because they think that this thing is going to make me into a leader. It's going to make all the people follow me. No. Being a strong leader and having character, like Din said in the episode prior, is what actually makes a strong leader.
Poetic
and that, to
Riz.
me...
Poetic Riz.
And it was awesome. And it was
Yep.
awesome. And that is the reason I think Moff Gideon made a lot of sense in this. And again, for the overarching story, we had to kill him for Thrawn to really come in, because we already saw that Moff Gideon was vying for that power vacuum that he thought was there because Thrawn wasn't physically showing himself. And we all know, if you've read the Thrawn books, that Thrawn does not need to physically show himself to be a force of power.
Yep.
Now, if Tommy can only read finish reading those damn books, please, for the love of the Lord
Now-
Almighty.
I was going to take your point a step further too and say
No.
that even though they're
Not allowed.
Thank you. Even though their struggle is within the entire season, Moff Gideon's purpose then was to test them on that. How
Yeah.
far are they willing to go then still and work together when challenged with this great evil?
With Tommy's point, my opinion has changed with... I still don't like that his bringing back was 2 episodes and very short. That's my whole issue. That's become my issue with a lot of things. It's just when things don't take the time to play out. But in the rushed sense that it happened in, it makes sense.
Now, I really don't know about you guys, because we've spent so much time talking about the main story that we have not talked about. I don't know about you guys. I was like pooping my pants, losing my mind over that air battle. Where
that was
the imps
so
jump off the
good.
ground. And like, well, because I thought they were just going to fly in and fight. I didn't realize it was going to be an almost entirely in the air battle, and seeing the armorer not use a blaster and use her hammer and her tongs, the salad tongs, to just, yeah, that was awesome. And like when Bo-Katan stabs that one dude in the back with the Darksaber. That was
Oscar
just,
Reeves uses the knee rockets. We saw Boba using just those pew with that. It's like, wow.
when she skids off the little landing pad and uses it to turn around and shoot those dudes. That was just so cool.
That was
She
cool
definitely hit
because
the slide
that
cancel
was
on that.
something that we haven't seen in live action. That's
Yeah.
Clone Wars stuff that we've always seen. So seeing that in live action was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
The Mandalorians flee the cruiser that they're on and like
In
fly to
space?
their ships and like hop onto this thing and like rush into combat. It was like, oh, it was.
It's
like
like
when that happened. Like,
Titanfall mobility.
yup,
It's super
the
cool.
Titanfall mobility of it was just like, ooh.
But I don't know about y'all, but a fight scene I loved even more than that was Mando going 1-on-2 with the
running the gauntlet.
with the doors. I absolutely
Yeah,
love that. And if you
that
notice,
was
those Mandalorians were using First Order riot gear with a First Order shield and the First Order baton.
They were. Yep.
So
And then I hope you guys are ready for that next Din Djarin Black Series figure that's going to have that white Super Commando jetpack and the 2 blasters that he picked up from the Super Commandos. I guarantee
I like
that's
how
gonna
one of
be a figure.
those blasters is straight a hand cannon that was blasting
Yeah.
through Beskar. Do you think because it sounded like it was like an actual like hand cannon? Do you think because Republic Commandos, they fire like legitimate bullets out of their blasters? Do you think that this was shooting Beskar bullets? Because the only thing that can pierce Beskar is Beskar.
No, I don't.
You think it
I
was
don't
just-
really know what that was, to be honest.
I think it was just the
I
sound the
couldn't come up with
blaster
a
made.
story. Yeah.
Well, it was like it was hitting Beskar, but they were dying. That's why I want to see what that was. There was also a point when this is also why I totally and utterly disagree with Jackson saying that Mando's a kid's show rather than a family show, because Din double taps somebody in the back of the head, front and center screen. You don't show that to kids, especially on Disney.
Did you also catch just awesome attention to detail in the choreography of all these fights? When he's fighting the first 2 and he has the knife, he tries to grab the knife before the dude falls off the ledge.
Oh, yeah.
And he can't grab it in time. I was like, that's such a cool detail to the choreography, and it's such a real thing.
You want to know what probably was? That was probably something that wasn't even put in the choreography, and that was something that was decided on the day by the stunt actor, because he's like, this probably makes sense.
Yeah.
Because lots of things like with action, like little beats, like because that's like with the fight that I was hoping to see, that little moment, because that's a story moment within a fight scene. That's what I want to see, fight scenes that move the story through more than just dialogue. That was because my biggest thing for that is in episode 3, the Obi-Annie move between Anakin and Obi-Wan. The amount of story that you get in just that sequence is like, they both go to attack, they see an attack, they both go to block, they both go to block, and it's like they get caught in a cycle of attack, block. That's why they do the silly spin and then they force push each other.
But Jacob, people don't see that. They only watch Star Wars because it looks cool. You said it yourself.
Yeah, but no, but that's why I was saying personally for that moment with Bo-Katan, I wasn't saying that it ruined it for me. I was saying I want this because it's something that I think cinema as a total needs to do more. Was just directed storytelling through a fight scene and build a character and move a character within their actions rather than their voice, which is something that Mando benefits from a ton because you don't see his face. You get helmet acting and you get physical movements as a way to portray his character, which is ingenious in a way to do it because you don't get that in cinema. That's why I think with Bo-Katan, because you have the liberty of seeing her face, a moment like that would have benefited her because you have this to work with. Yeah. Storytelling and fight scenes is very cool, and I want to see it more.
Speaking of storytelling and fight scenes, I really liked when Din tries to fight Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon is just kicking his ass the
Yeah.
entire
Well,
'cause
time.
He's got like the power loader from Aliens.
He's got the exoskeleton from Call of Duty Advanced Warfare.
Yep.
Jackson, what was that stupid thing you heard someone say
I saw
online?
this TikTok beforehand that was like,
So dumb,
when we
dude.
talk about people forget what happens in the previous episode, this is the prime example. They were making the point that the Moff Gideon that we saw in the episode, in the finale, was a clone. And so they were like, he didn't have a mustache, and the picture that they put on Instagram had Moff Gideon with a mustache. And then the first comment on the video was, yeah, and when Moff Gideon moved too, it sounded like he was in a robotic suit. So maybe it must have been an underdeveloped clone that needed robotic assistance to move around. And I went, you missed the point.
It's Dark Trooper Armor 2.0. It's literally
Is it 3 or 4?
Generation 4.
Generation 4.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he's like, I removed the one thing that made the armor not so good. it wasn't me.
I know, and I was like, oh
my.
my. And people were having full-on debates in the comments. It had thousands of likes and like comments, and I was like,
that's
I'm
what
not
I
even
hate
just gonna.
about TikTok. That's
Yup.
what I hate about it. It's
TikTok
like,
has so much false. It has so much
And-
fake news. It's the fakest news for Star Wars that you've ever
When it
seen
comes to Star Wars,
in the
it's like
galaxy.
it's always Star Wars has like the worst like interpretations of everything on TikTok.
Yup.
well, and that's yeah, and it was like I just thought the fight was awesome. Like Mando's getting his butt kicked by Moff Gideon, and then he's like, "I'm not even gonna waste my time on you. I'm gonna have my Praetorian guards finish you up." And I don't know. I just, like I said, I get so invested in and caught up in what's going on when I'm watching it. I was so worried when Grogu was leading them away, like because again, it's like. I'm just invested in the story. I'm not. My
Grogu
thought
gets
process
cut
is
in
not.
half.
No, my thought process is not. Well, it's okay because Grogu's gonna live because he's Grogu. Like that's what I mean. Like I think the storytelling is well done because I'm still as the viewer so caught up in the moment that I'm like, oh no, and Din has to like help Grogu. He has to help him, and then the door is shutting, and Moff Gideon wraps that cord around Din's neck and pulls him back so he can't help Grogu. I'm like, that's just such good. Like way to build tension, and then seeing Din and Grogu work together. And I just gotta say, Luke trained Grogu so well because Grogu uses the Force as a Jedi should use it, only for protection and defense. He never chokes someone out. He never like explodes and like uses a weapon to stab somebody.
Like he choked out Bo-Katan before.
Garrett Cardoon.
Cardoon.
Yeah,
Character building,
before he got his trade again, character building, and everyone misses this stuff. You know,
Multi-seasonal.
people miss this stuff, and they're just like, oh well, you know. And I love the Praetorian Guards. I thought they were awesome. The fight was awesome. And it was just.
I was watching the fight with the Praetorians, and I was low-key hoping that the choreography was going to be like a little trash as a hark back to The Last Jedi, and everybody being like, it's trash with the Praetorians. I was hoping like the Praetorians like would be canonized as like they fight really well, but like when they're not doing anything, they're just kind of standing around. I was like, oh, that'd be so funny. And I ruined the whole episode because it didn't happen. It was in my head canon.
And then the most
Bro, you sound like a
dangerous
jet
word in
starter.
Star Wars right now is headcanon. That's the most dangerous word in Star Wars now.
It's the most cringe word in Star Wars.
Now,
It's giving.
and then how about when Bo-Katan goes
my
to fight
gosh.
Moff Gideon for herself, and he whips out this staff,
Yeah, bro.
the extendo staff.
The
I was like,
extender. Did you see that it was extending and detracting depending
Yeah.
on where it was
Yup.
in order to his
that
body?
was so.
That happens in Fallen Order, I
That
noticed.
fight is so good. Like the choreography on
The
these fights. It was just every fight in this episode was
yeah.
was so well done, and kudos to the fight choreographers. Like between, I mean, let's think. Like so, there's the one where Din is captured and he gets away from the two guards, and then there's the one where he runs the gauntlet, and then there's the big fight in the air.
The big fight in the air is a different thing. That's probably was done by storyboard artists because
Yeah,
that
true.
was all
That's true.
CGI.
Because then there's Moff Gideon versus Din, Moff Gideon versus Bo-Katan, Din and Grogu versus the Praetorians, Bo, Din, and Grogu fighting Moff Gideon. You have like 6 hand-to-hand combat scenes in the same episode. And it's like, in that sense, like I do agree with Jacob. I do wish it was longer because I would have liked to seen those fight scenes be a little longer. I don't really care one way or the other for like the slow moments.
Jackson's got a cramp.
Jackson's got
For your audio listeners, love you to death. Jackson has a cramp.
yeah, but that's
He's
it.
going
Was
through it.
those were the moments I maybe would have wanted to see more of because I was in love with the fights.
It's like a
But-
Charlie
but-
horse on my back, dude.
But I'm glad that you think it. You wish it was longer too, because all those
Yeah.
all those beats I wished for and I hoped for were all contained within the fight scenes, all of them.
I just wanted
So-
a longer episode because I wanted more Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's like where I'm
truthfully.
at. And
I just I wanted a longer episode just because I wanted the themes that were being presented to us just to be fledged out a little
Dude.
bit more. It's not that I hated it. It's just that I was like, oh, okay.
can we also talk about like
No.
how much of a wuss R5 is? That whole
With the
scene
mouse
to me.
droids?
That
The
scene to me
mouse
was
droids are like,
hilarious, dude. I loved that scene. That was just amazing. I
Hero
thought
of
it
the
was funny.
rebellion.
He was like, and the mouse droids like booting into him, and he's
Like,
just like,
what are they supposed to even do to begin with?
I
What
don't
do
know.
mouse droids actually do?
They're
Noth-
probably
they're
supposed
like-
to guide troops, but
They
all
do.
the troops are fighting, so then there's no point. So then they have to get an army of mouse droids.
Yeah, they're basically like a guide. Like if there were arrows on the floor. What is going on?
This is what he had to go through.
Oh,
bro. He was trying
I
to
was
do the
like-
scoff
I was
and
like,
the
so
dress,
Do you need a massage or something? Like, what's good?
Is that Charlie
I'm
horse
good,
doing a
kid.
number on you?
Oh my god,
I woke up this morning.
My back is cramping.
I
Now,
woke up
so
this morning with
floating
one
on
chin, I was
itself.
like, getting out of bed.
It's like getting sucked through like a tiny hole in the wall. He's like, I'm cramping.
I don't know about you guys, but that end scene on Mandalore when they light the forge and Axe Wof starts chanting for Mandalore, I was moved by that scene. That was
Goosebumps.
Yeah, I got goosebumps during that, and it was awesome. Again, you get to see everyone that has different beliefs, about the customs of being a Mandalorian, all being together and having that togetherness under the one banner, and the fact that they're at the city of Sundari is super cool as well.
I liked the shot of just the Mythosaur just under the water for the split second that we got it, because I like that they didn't just like disregard it, that they didn't act like it didn't happen for the rest of the season. I wanted there to be something pointing back to it, but then again, it was a symbol point to it was the catalyst to get this story moving.
Yeah, it was. I feel like there's not much else I have to say.
I have
about this
nothing
episode.
else to
We
say about
really got into it on this episode.
Yeah, we did.
I think our best episodes are always when I disagree with you guys, because then we fight.
Yeah, Jacob does it on purpose. Actually, we talk before the episodes. Jacob goes, "Yeah, and here's my take."
This is all scripted.
It's all scripted.
Actually, I think it comes to benefit a little bit, because although we all sit here and we absolutely love Star Wars for Star Wars, I think especially just because with the major I'm in, and now the fact that I'm watching more and more movies and more television, I'm seeing how stories are done in like the most expert ways possible. I think it helps that I'm becoming a little bit more critical of it for discussion's sake.
The other thing too is that it's also nice because we have multiple multiple viewpoints here, because there are going to be people that watch these podcasts that have Jacob's opinion or my opinion or Jackson's opinion on certain things.
And this is a debate.
It's a good way for people to feel heard, because their opinion is being heard and they get to hear the other side of that in a very passionate discussion. And this is why we are nerds, because we just sat here for over an hour
And we yelled at each other about
Star Wars and storytelling in a fictional space universe. But yeah, it's episodes like this that I really enjoy, because it's not just us going, yeah, that was cool the entire time,
Yeah, it's nice when it's not just an echo chamber of,
Yeah,
that was cool, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. This is why the 1313 fan base is very intelligent and not a bunch of smooth brains.
Because guess what? In our Discord, we did have a lot of disagreement on this episode.
We did.
And guess what? It didn't turn into name calling, and it divulged into racism.
Just because I disagree with you, Justin, on the Discord doesn't mean I'm still not gonna give you some loving when I see what I see.
I've
be
been,
like, hey, Justin.
Justin at work right now. We love you, Justin.
So I just wanted to
counting
share.
money going.
I have some TikTok comments, because every time I've been seeing a lot of TikToks where a TikToker will be like, they'll like make an edit about the episode and then go, yeah, but the season was mid. Or like the finale was mid, after they went out of their way to make an edit about a moment from the episode. And this was some comments. Someone said, with, the little nerd emojis at the end. I wanted Ahsoka and Boba to come in and help while Ahsoka gets an Anakin flashback and they all ride the Mythos. And then someone else replied and was like, actually Luke Skywalker came back and remade the Darksaber. And someone said, you forgot the Thrawn cameo.
You want to know something that I think would be really cool, though? Because Darksaber's gone, and we just had something that was a little bit of a teaser to Blackwing. In the books, kyber crystals have the ability to become infected, and one does, and it becomes its own form of the Darksaber that like billows smoke when it's ignited, because it's infected with this dark energy, which also extends on the idea that kyber is actually alive. It's like an actual kind of being.
In sign language, you would say
force.
Very interesting.
So that would be something cool. But then again, also Disney, don't do it until I get there, please and thank you. I would love that project all to myself. See, if I have the mindset that it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I'm manifesting.
It's giving manifesting vibes.
It's giving, you should put out a puddle of moon water tonight.
Charge my moon crystal.
I'd say I'm Scorpio rising, but I don't know how that Scorpio is going up that escalator.
I put the rose quartz in his pocket when he left so that he would have safe travels.
He put the scorpion on the moon.
Never mind, I'm done with the crystal, man.
I put the potion of water breathing in his back
I
pocket.
have the potion. I put the mysterious stew in his pocket. Stew.
It's like the bottle of light from Lord of the Rings.
And on that note, I think we should just overall, because this is our best moment, is when Jackson gets to finally share his rating of the season, because Jackson waits until the season is over.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know. Jackson, what do you rate this season of The Mandalorian?
I'm going to give it
What is it giving?
like a 6.5.
It's giving a 6.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, obviously, as if you know me, like, Clone Wars and Rebels is my perfection out of 10, so I try to be really critical, because not everybody gets the Good Boy Award and gets a 9 every time I watch. Like, that's just stupid. Like, I'll be realistic, I like more things than others, so I'm not gonna give everything a 7 every time I watch it because it was good.
Dude, I did that voice
I
one
love
time
this,
at a
though.
gun raffle, and the family sitting across from us when I
Dude,
did that voice,
yeah.
were like, it was so funny. I was like, I found the bigots. Anyway, what do you rate this, Tommy?
The whole season, and again, like, if you didn't catch on by now, I really liked Mando season 3.
Yep.
Personally, I think I liked season 2 more towards the second half. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
The first half was a
I
little
feel like
bit
when I
slow.
think of
Frog
Mando
lady.
season 2, I think of the second half of the season.
So you didn't like the Frog Lady episode?
No, I love my mommy, but like, ribbit and
Broke.
I think I give this one. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I'm gonna give it 8.5 out of 10 Jackson perms. That's what I'm gonna give it.
I don't have a perm.
People, when my hair was longer,
This is not a perm.
when my hair was, where he's got the young Sheldon haircut right now.
Throwback to when Jackson had a Lego hair when we started the show.
I will never go back.
Before he came onto the podcast, he was with, and then we started recording.
Jacob, what do you give the show?
I'm actually going to agree with Jackson. I think I'm just going to give it more of like a 5 or a 6 actually, because it was good, but it was like nothing from this season really blew my socks off except for the getting Pelion and the mention of Thrawn back. And granted, I know cameo moment, wow, but it's the one part of this season that really made me excited.
Well, no, I feel like that is not the same kind of cameo as
That's a deep cut cameo for people that are like,
that's if you're
book
a
nerds like me,
fan,
and it's like,
if you're a fan,
if
you're
you
gonna
got
love it.
If you got the character tattooed on your arm, it's gonna make you levitate. So
Yeah,
it's
not like a Luke Skywalker cameo or like a Boba Fett cameo where everyone already knows the character. So I would, yeah.
That was probably my apex of the season, just because of I love Thrawn. But no, yeah, I give it a 5 just because it was good. It was a good season. It didn't impress me like in a very major way throughout its entirety. There were a lot of episodes where I was like, I know we're cooking, but I don't see what I don't know what the recipe is. So it's like, I just got to trust the process, where it's like things with the Bad Batch. It's like, it's easy to know like where we're going. So it's easier to trust the process. This was like, it was a little up in the air.
I think a big theme of season 3 would probably be, I think you guys would agree, tying up loose ends. We really tied up loose ends on Mandalorians, the Darksaber, definitely Moff Gideon.
Unless
Din
he's still alive. Unless he's just a rotisserie. He's a rotisserie chicken somewhere across the galaxy.
I came back and now I have no hair either. Because
they took my mustache and now they took everything else.
Which, by the way, that was because of
my pubes are gone.
That was because of Better Call Saul that he didn't have a mustache. By the way.
Oh,
yeah, the filming of Better Call Saul. It's not because he's a clone guy.
They should have just done the Henry Cavill floating lip thing.
My name is Giancarlo Esposito.
You remember that from? Did you watch Batman vs Superman?
Dude, I just watched Starlight Digest and they were saying the same thing. Dude, what if they just like gave him the floating Henry Cavill?
What?
In Batman vs Superman, if you rewatch it, there's a point where there's like a cell phone video of Superman and he's talking, and while they did that shoot, he was filming Mission Impossible, and it was in his contract that he could not shave his mustache for Mission Impossible. If you remember the bathroom scene, Henry Cavill's the one that goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he couldn't shave his mustache. So they've CGI'd out the mustache, and it just looks like there's like a piece of skin floating like around his lip, and it looks
because
really
he couldn't
weird.
he couldn't move his. They told him like you can't like make too many facial expressions. So he had to keep his mouth like as
thank
still
you.
as possible, but his upper lip, the pores don't stretch.
The pores don't stretch.
There's no pores.
There's no. It literally looks like there's like a skin graft there. With like, it's bad. But yeah, they could have done the opposite of that for Moff. It's not like his mustache is very pronounced.
Whoa. But yeah, that's all. That's all I got.
That's all.
That's all. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Dun 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 hum da da hum da da hum dum dum da hum da da hum da da dum dum da dum da ba do ba do ba do ba do ba do ba dum ba ba dum ba do ba do ba dum ba do ba dum dum hum da dum hum da da hum dum 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 hum dum da dum hum da da hum dum da da hey I'm da dum da dum da hum da dum da dum da dum da dum da da ba da dum dum da ba ba da ba da